So our speakers today will be Cassie, Cohen, and Ibrahim Mubarak with Portland Harbor Community Coalition. PHCC is a group of community groups that works on elevating the most impacted groups in the billion-dollar federal cleanup of the 11-mile wide Willamette River Superfund site at Portland Harbor. Kevin Thomas, PhD candidate in urban studies and planning at PSU, and has been working to better link PSU's diversity and cultural services with sustainability programs and efforts on campus and in the community. And lastly, Ryan Rittenhouse with Friends of the Columbia Gorge, and they work to protect the gorge from pollution and polluters and preserve the natural beauty of the gorge while informing and preserving the public about its history. So with that, I will hand this off to Cassie and Ibrahim, and I hope everybody enjoys this, and thanks again for coming.
Yeah, again, thank you, Owen and Tahira and everyone on the committee for inviting us to be a part of this. I'm excited to hear from the other two presenters as well. And yeah, maybe we can, and I look forward to a little Q&A hopefully towards the end. So you heard a little bit about our coalition. I will, let's see, let you know that we have about 40 organizations that are part of our coalition. It's a mix of groups that are, neighborhood organizations, environmental groups, grassroots organizations, environmental justice organizations, people of color-led groups, houseless advocacy, minority contractors. It's kind of a mix. It's a big mix of groups, and we partner a lot with higher education and partner with government agencies and others. And our leadership is we have a steering committee that has representatives from the different disproportionately impacted communities that Owen shared with you in the opening. And so we'll talk a little bit about kind of how we define impacted communities in the case of the Willamette River and the history of the river, kind of the history, and then also the current day's exposure for people and animals and different kind of groups of people. So where are we? That's our first question that we're starting out with. We thought we'd talk a little bit about kind of the very current political situation that the whole country's in, with the Environmental Protection Agency having been experienced even greater deregulation than already existed. So even kind of right as the coronavirus, started becoming a major issue, my guess is everyone who's watching the news and the environment in the news is aware that the Trump administration passed some major deregulation. So that made us concerned about our river here, but also concerned about every other kind of industry that causes a risk to the environment, to people, to wildlife. So we checked in with the regional EPA here to find out how does that impact the cleanup of the Superfund site. And what they said was, really it's gonna take a lot of effort for a polluter to make the case that they are experiencing hardship or inability to move forward with the work. For example, if a testing lab, if the laboratory is closed and they can't collect samples and process those sediment samples in the lab, They can, they have to provide evidence and make a case and write it up, and has to get approved by EPA to slow things down. So there might be some delay, but we've been reassured by EPA that the cleanup process is still moving forward. But where we are also is with the ongoing exposure of toxins that cause cancer and other harmful effects to people and animals. So we have a lot of people who fish in the, who consume resident fish just off the banks of the river. And many immigrants and refugees who are subsistence fishers from their home countries come here and depend on the carp or other fish. And we talk about the Black community, many of whom worked in the Kaiser shipyards building warships or deconstructing warships, were exposed on the job back in the day to harmful toxins without knowing that they were being exposed. And then many of families back in the day used to fish on a regular basis down there, catfish or other fish, bass, crappie, all of those fish consume the toxins at the bottom of the river and get PCBs in their systems. And then when we consume those fish, it gets in our systems and it stays, and it's not good news. And then of course Native Americans have treaty rights to fishing in the Willamette. There's 6 treaty trustee tribes, and their rights are being challenged on an ongoing basis because of the lack of safe fish to consume, and other species, lamprey that are compromised, clams and mussels and such. And then Ibrahim, do you want to talk a bit about the houseless, quickly about the houseless community?
I'm Ibrahim Mubarak. I work for Portland Harbor Community Coalition, and I'm the outreach coordinator. I'm also a houseless advocate, and that's how I got involved with Portland Harbor Community Coalition, because I don't know if you all know what sweeps are, but that's when they move houseless people from place to place, and now they don't have anywhere to go, so they've been going, living in the open space and environmental space. And the people were saying that the houseless people are destroying the beautiful landscape and environment. And so Cassie and I got together. We did a video of Right to Survive, going out talking to houseless people, where anybody really that was along the Willamette Cove. And when we went there, we saw a lot of mutant fish and tadpoles, and these jelly things look like a bunch of jellyfish that had came up on the shore. And it wasn't no warning signs to let people know about the toxins that's in the water, and to let women know that they're not supposed to eat no fish. I think a pound of fish or half a pound, something like that, for a month or something out the water. And so the big question was, if they're sweeping houseless people out to the edge of land, where are they to go? What are they to eat? What are they to drink? Where do they use the restroom? Where do they throw their garbage? Where do they sleep? And so we invite them to the meetings to try to educate them more about that toxic water. And we saw that when we went there, a lot of houseless people had blotches on their skin. They were losing their teeth, and the dogs was even losing their fur. Their pets were losing their fur. And so we saw some growing gardens out there so they can have good vegetables. But if that water is coming along the land, if that sediment is toxic So what they're doing, they're eating toxic vegetables and stuff. So we try very much to inform them, but how can you tell people who's hungry not to eat that fish? Or swim in that water to be clean or drink it. And so hopefully this message will get the ones who've been polluting the water to clean it up so people can live there and participate recreational way.
Thank you. Thanks, Ibrahim. Yep, so that's, part of our work is to raise awareness as much as we can in the community so people can make their own informed decisions about what they can do and hopefully be part of the solution as well. But yeah, finally, there is some movement towards cleanup after a long delay. And it's, if you ask EPA, they'll blame it on the polluters. If you ask the polluters, they'll blame it on EPA. But, to the community, it's just, it's like a whole generation. So, we have elders that are part of our coalition who now have lost hope that anything's going to change in their lifetime, and they're looking towards their grandchildren's future. Go to the next slide. So where do we want to go? Obviously the big picture goal for, after years and years of dialogue with community members has been this vision of having a river that's safe for people to feel, even if it's, even if the agencies technically say it's safe to swim and recreate, a lot of people still feel like it's unsafe. Their perception is that it's unsafe. Safe for people to consume any kind of fish down there. And safe for wildlife too, for the birds of prey and other animals. People in our coalition and out in the community want greater access to the river in the Superfund site. Once it's cleaned up, they feel like it's highly industrialized, and it has been for a long time, and there's lack of equity around access in North Portland. And so we're pushing to expand access and to make it clean enough for in spots such as Willamette Cove, which is owned by Metro Regional Government. It's a 27-acre site in North Portland, right on the river. And then we want to see the cleanup done equitably. And what we mean by that is that that it's not business as usual by having big mega general contractors come in from outside of the state who work on every other Superfund site and have a crew that they bring with them that do not necessarily have access to living wage jobs or safety standards, that kind of thing. So
and then the job. Oh, go ahead, Cassie.
What's that?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I was ready to talk about job training and job.
Yeah, exactly. So jobs. Yeah. So we hope to have jobs training for, especially for impacted communities, and to have that lead into career pathways for impacted communities, and for minority contractors, women run contracting firms, and to have apprenticeship opportunities, and even have a chance for young folks through workforce development programs and pre-apprenticeship programs to be able to have a part in the habitat restoration that happens after the dredging and the capping of the toxic sediment and removal of toxic sediment. But all of that we feel like is an opportunity for equitable procurement and hiring and training, and that's what equity means for us. Go ahead, Eve.
We also hoping and pushing that the houseless people that live in that area, that they can get hired for job training, and that'll help get them off the streets because they'll be making a living wage and getting some new career.
Yeah, and to also think about houseless folks as potential stewards for the land, to be able to, monitor and make sure that it stays clean and get paid to do that kind of work as well. And we hope to see this done through what's called a community benefits agreement. It's a tool that is basically used for major infrastructure projects by communities who see that there's a potential to make sure that the benefits come back to the community and don't go out. And so we're working with a lot of partners, and we'd love to join anyone who else would like to join to draft up a community benefits agreement that we will then share with the city of Portland and the state of Portland and the port of Portland in hopes of having actually a legally binding agreement that's a good faith agreement that all community stakeholders and labor unions and government can agree to, and then that sets standards for how many women to hire and sustain on the job, how many black black apprenticeships, for example, and it just sort of spelling it out, disaggregating what our priorities are and standards in a written agreement. And then Superfund site is notorious for being behind closed doors, and so we hope to expand transparency and for the community to have access in sort of real time to information that is critical for them to know what's happening and to be able to weigh in on the process. And then how do we get there? Oh, I guess I covered one bullet already. I forgot I had it on here around community benefits agreements. So, but yeah, our coalition is just about building community power and sort of expanding the numbers of people and organizations that are tracking this, and to hold industry accountable, and to even hold our government agencies accountable, because oftentimes they forget about the interests of the people and are more concerned about their bottom line and liability and confidentiality. So we remind the agencies sort of over and over in a gentle way that we're taxpayers and we all live here and we all have rights to know and to participate in decision making. And Ibrahim, you want to touch on the other two bullets?
Yeah, again, as I said before, they need to stop the fleet for people trying to survive, and that's why houseless people can't get settled, because they always looking on where they're going to sleep, and when people sleep deprived, they can't think right. It can cause mental issues. So if we can have people be more stable and join and help us with this campaign, I think it would be wise to the city. I'm sorry, that's the Don being called. Wise for them to stop doing that, because we did, what was that, 2014, we did a community benefit agreement, and that's when the city took notice of it, and they was going to clean up 8% of the river. Am I right, Cassie?
Oh, no. Well, the record of decision was created in 2016 by EPA. And because there was such a massive amount of public comments, 5,300. I think the most on the West Coast of any Superfund process, which, you know, we were a big part of that, but many other groups pushed for public comments. Yeah, EPA upped the cleanup level in a pretty substantial way because of that. So we use that technique or that tactic, I guess, to sort of flood public comment processes. And then are also, trying to push the agencies in other ways. But yeah, currently, so, here's our contact information. If anyone's interested in learning more about, there's a couple of public comment processes open right now. One is for the EPA, the Portland Harbor Community Involvement Plan, and the other is for the 27 acres I mentioned earlier called Willamette Cove. It's for Oregon Department of Environmental Quality's sort of plan for the cleanup of that site, and that's open. And we're happy to share some community talking points that we pieced together based on feedback and advice that we got, and our knowledge and awareness about that site. So again, thank you so much for having us, and we're eager to engage in questions and Q&A, and then to hear from the other folks. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cassie and Ibrahim, for this incredible work you're doing. And thank you for joining us today to share that work with all of us. I've also visited these incredible story videos on your website, and honestly feel very humbled by the work you do. So I invite everyone to go have a look at these story videos on PHCC website. I'll try to put it in the chat room right now.